I'll be sure to tell the community you guys want to charge them more money because we got a bill to pay for.
It's gotta be a happy medium.
Like schedule.
I have one. Well, we could charge them 35 right now. I'm just saying start with.
Excuse me, everyone. I'd like to bring the meeting to order. We have a town hall today. We're here to discuss the moving forward with the water project and the sewer lagoon expansion project. With starting that, I'd like to go around the room at the end, introduce yourself, who you're with, and what we do.
Jim Mayfield, construction observer with BG.
Wes Weiser, I'm a civil engineer with BG Consultants working on the wastewater project.
Royce Hedinger, Hedinger Excavating, contractor.
Brett Hedinger Excavating.
Jason Hoskinson, engineer with BG.
Aaron Castro, engineer with BG.
Robert Suppenbach, council member.
Lou Donaldson, mayor.
Connie Caps, council member.
Michael Hemphill.
And he's here, city clerk. That's not right.
She broke the pattern.
Very good. We start today with B&G wants to start with a PowerPoint, wants to go through basically historically where we're at, how we got here, and how we're proceeding forward with projects at hand. And we're going to start with the water project. B&G?
A few more seats. Front row seat too if you want.
Good evening, or afternoon, I'm usually here in the evening. I'm Jason Hoskinson, as mentioned earlier. That's a little dirty, just for blurry. That's better. That's a little better. All right, well, I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly. As Lou mentioned, I'm gonna give you just a quick background, kind of where we're at. And then the water project, the distribution mains are starting up. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what to expect, some kind of timing and how it's gonna impact you guys. Project status overall though, the water tower is a portion of this project. It's complete, contractor's done some touch-ups. We're just waiting to get water to the tower. The water system portion of the project, Hedinger Excavating's on board now. They started, last week, a week ago? And they're focusing on the water main, or the transmission main, booster station, getting water to the tower so we can have the bulk fill, and then start branching out from there. And this is just kind of a snapshot. If you remember from past meetings, this is a USDA funded project. Nearly 40% of the project is grant funded. $22 million total, $13 million in loan. And keep on going here. So I guess I mentioned some of this already. The construction just started on the water system side of things. It's going to go through to about the end of 2026. So it's going to be going for a while now. As I mentioned earlier, work's starting on getting the tower here, and then they're going to focus on getting into the community. I think probably within a month or so, is that fair to say? They'll be working on distribution mains into the community from the tower. So, what can you expect? Notices. I want to talk about notices real quick. Hedinger's going to be giving out roughly 1 week notice before they're working on your street or in your area. At that point, you may see some barricades that then go up, trying to restrict access from getting into the work zone. We do want to try to keep driveway access to the extent possible. There may be a time where they have to cut a water line across your driveway. We've asked them to give a 48-hour notice before they close your drive, but they may also knock on the door and say, hey, is it okay if we cut across here today? Do you need to get out? Do you need to get in? What do we need to do? How do we coordinate that and try to work together on that? Once water's in place and meters and everything are in service, or ready to be placed into service, they'll be knocking on your doors to say, hey, when can we tie the water over? If you're one of the customers that's going to get tied over with this project. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But you could expect at least a 24-hour notice on that. Again, they may knock on the door and say, can we do it right now or in 1 hour? Are you taking a shower? Do you need to finish the laundry? That kind of thing, and work with you there. and try to get the project put together without too much inconvenience. I mentioned road access and impacts. There's going to be signs and barricades. It's going to be kind of a busy, messy, dirty area where they're working. The road would be closed to through traffic, meaning you can get to your house if you're not cutting through. You can actually get to your house, but if you use that route to get through to your house on another street, we'd ask that you try to find another way around if you can, and try to stay out of the work zone if you can. And if you are driving through it, just use caution the best you can. The workers will be out there, hopefully with high visibility vests and shirts and whatnot, but just use caution. We don't want to have any accidents out there. General process of the construction. So when they do get to your street or putting the water line down the street that you're interested in, pretty basic construction, trench construction. They'll excavate the trench, install the water main in through there. These are typically going to be along the sides of the street somewhere, one side or the other. And then they'll backfill the main. Once we have water in the water tower, they'll be able to pressure those lines and test them, make sure they're not leaking, disinfect them. And then once everything passes tests, at that point they would be good to go on putting in meters in your yards. They may do a bulk of water lines on multiple streets before they get the water meters put in. Or depending on weather schedules, they may come in and put the meters in right away. I don't anticipate they would put a water line in. Let me know if I'm speaking wrong, but I don't anticipate they'd put a water main in right now and then not come back for a year and hook your water meter up. So the goal would be to try to get your water meters hooked up as soon as feasible, as weather and schedule allows. Water meters. We talked a little bit about this at the last town hall meeting. There's a list of the original 636 that were included in the project back when 2017, 18, 19, when we did the preliminary report for this project. And that list was posted online. I think I looked the other day, it's still up there. It's listed by lot number, so you can find that list. The project came in a little over budget, but USDA was actually able to interject some more grants, some more funding, and that's allowed us to add some additional meters into the project, up to 195 additional meters, just because we know the community has grown since 2019 when we did the report. So we don't have, we're actually working through that right now, trying to figure out where were all these additional houses and rural water meters and POA meters. Where have they all been added since we did this report back in 2019? We're going to be reporting back to the council hopefully within a month or two and see where it is feasible, or if it's feasible to add additional on. The goal is to get as many users onto the system with this USDA project as we can. So those are a little bit yet to be determined, but just know there'll be some additionals beyond what was originally there. Now, I'm going to talk real quick about a few scenarios. So when they are ready to tie over your water service, there's really kind of 3 service connection scenarios in this project. And scenario one is probably the easiest. That's if you're on the existing POA system and the city's taken over that line. This is kind of what, if we take a snapshot of the road, just cut out the road and look into the road, city water main, road's up here. This service line coming to the meter pit is the city's responsibility to the water meter. That'd be the water meter, and then it comes back out and down, and that goes into your house, okay? In the POA scenario, or if you're on the POA system, that's a POA meter right now. The new meters are gonna be an automatic read system to where the city doesn't have to look at the meter every month. It's got this little wire and a little transmitter up top. They could just drive by, and actually probably a lot of them they'll be able to pick up the monthly usage from City Hall, but they may have to drive by to get some others. But if you're on the POA, it's basically they'll knock on your door, hey, we need to replace the meter, and they'll just take the old meter out and put the new one in, and you're good to go. That's just about it. So very short time frame, what, maybe 30 minutes, hour?
Most of it, you'll have all dug up and it's just cutting, transferring it over.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick thing, as long as there's not like frozen nuts and bolts and stuff that they can't get the thing undone. So that's a pretty quick scenario. Scenario 2 is if you're on the rural water district. And there's a lot of lines here, so I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit about it. And I just took a snapshot of one area that we know we've got some rural water customers. Here's the city street, okay? So the red lines are kind of the right of way. And this is an example, we'll be installing a new blue water main in the road right of way. And if you're on rural water, a lot of water district, rural water lines are in the back, or if we even know where they're at. In some cases, the rural water doesn't know where they're at. And know where the meter's at, so you can go read. We'll install a new service line with a new meter out here, pretty much right at the right-of-way line. So backside of the ditch, if you will, or maybe by the power poles. We'll put your water meter out here, and then we run to the back with a service line and tie into your existing service at the rural water meter. That is the plan. Now, if you want to re-plumb to your house and not have to go all the way around, that could be a possibility, but you'd have to talk to a plumber or catch these guys, see if they would do something on the side, outside of this project. But generally speaking, if you're an existing rural water customer, you'll get a new meter pit where your old meter pit's at. I'm sorry, you'll get a new meter pit where the right-of-way's at, and then the line will go and tie in where your old meter pit's at. The third scenario is if you are not on the POA or the rural water system, you got a Holden Hall, you got a tank. And basically, same scenario, we got the road, putting in a new water main in the road, a new water meter at the right-of-way line, and then it's gonna be the property owner's responsibility to then plumb from that meter to the house, into the house, however you wanna do that. And I know the city had we talked about providing a list of plumbers at one time. These guys, depending on where they're at, Hettinger, may be willing to do some of that work.
We're probably gonna have an extra crew. If there's enough of it, we'll put them on doing that.
Yeah. Just know they're on a time schedule with this contract, so depending on where they land with that, they may be able to do it, might not. But as kind of been discussed, the city will get the meter to the right-of-way line, but then the property owner outside this project would need to actually plumb into the house. So those are kind of the main scenarios with water meters. I just got a couple pages here. I'm gonna just mention kind of what to expect as far as the completion of the project. Once it's complete, of course, you'll have a water tower, you have water mains, meters supplying water to the community. The city will be in the water business selling water. There will be a bulk fill station at the tower, so that would still be available. Customers previously on the POA or the rural water will be, at the time of the report, if you're on that list, you'll be on the system, and we're trying to get as many others as we can where it's feasible, where we have water lines. Get some additional on there if we can. The yards will be restored more or less to similar condition. If you can't grow grass now, you're not going to be able to grow grass after the project. They're not bringing in loads and loads of topsoil. They're going to be digging through. It's going to be messy, but we're going to be expecting them to grade it back, smooth things out, and reseed once it's done. Driveways, they're basically replaced with a like kind material. So if you have a gravel drive, it'll be gravel going back. They're not under contract to repave everybody's driveways. So in some cases, they may not even have to cut across your driveway. There may be some places where they bore or can accomplish that. So, but generally speaking, it's they'll button things up and clean things up as they kind of wrap up in the area. A few other items here: monthly billing for the connected meters. The city council is going to be setting those rates. That'll be a discussion for probably a near-term council meeting. It hasn't been taken up or set yet. With that said, the more users we have on this system, the more people we have paying off the debt to USDA for building the project. Right now, just using an average usage, this isn't a low user, it's not a high user, but just using an average, we would anticipate it would take about $70 to $80 a month in your water bill to pay off the debt and not be in the red and losing money on it. So, as far as new users in the future, again, water connection fees will be set by the council. That hasn't been decided yet, but it will be a topic upcoming as they do try to kind of transition into the water business. And then as far as any kind of ongoing future system costs, I do make a note there. There is a base fee from Lacine for the city to buy the water, so there's obviously a cost to get the water, but you know, that offsets, or is more than offset by not having to pay for a treatment plant and operate a treatment plant. As far as any kind of operating costs, you know, the city will have to, it'll be pretty minimal. There'll be some testing, flushing lines as needed, and locating if somebody's building a new house and digging through there. Maintenance costs are hopefully gonna be low as well, because it's a brand new system. But over time, things do leak, things shift, things move. There could be some leaks and breaks that the city had to repair. But I do make a note there, as noted on the water meter map or water meter slides, from the meter to the house is the property owner's responsibility. And then any kind of long-term costs, or right now they're unknown, but community's growing, there could be some system expansions in the future, but there's, you know, that's a lot of up in the air. And there was one other item I forgot to mention during construction. They're gonna have flags and stakes and stuff out in your yards, and we do ask that if you can keep those intact or avoid mowing over them or removing them, that would be great. That's what they're using to know where existing utilities are at. That's what they're using to know where the right of way's at, where the water mains need to go. So we'd ask that you try to keep those, try to avoid them as much as you can. And you know, once they blow through there with the water line construction, I assume at that point, you know, then it'd be good to be removed if they haven't removed them. So I think, let me do one more slide. I believe that's all I had on the water side. Lou, before we open it to questions, did you have anything you wanted to add? Or you want to just?
No,
Okay.
everything looks pretty good.
We do have a couple updates on the wastewater side, but I think at this point, while we're on the water topic, are there any questions lingering out there? Dan?
How are you, Jason?
Good. How are you doing?
I've got a question. What's the expected timeline of the construction phase? And are there any milestones? Are you doing different phases around the lake?
Right, so the contract is set up, they just started. There is a milestone, and that is basically by October, we want the water tower to be filled and be able to fill that up and sell bulk water there. That's contingent on some materials and pumps and equipment and stuff showing up. So, but that process has been going, and we're hoping that we're on track for this fall, being able to have bulk water there. As soon as water's in the tower, they can start pressurizing lines and moving outward from there. We don't have a detailed schedule yet on like sectors of the area, but I believe they're gonna be working on that. I think it's what we talked about at our last progress meeting. That'll be upcoming, providing some notices there. They will start working, like I mentioned earlier, working out into the community in about a month. Those lines obviously won't be able to be filled with water until, but you'll see water coming, or water lines coming out that way. Target date for completion is late fall of next year, 2026. So they'll be in town all year, or well, year and a half. Another question?
Yeah, your graphic shows there's been 196 additional meters besides the existing that was taken back in 2019.
Up to, yes.
Has there been 196 new customers since 2019?
We've been working through that with the city, not quite, but close to that, yeah.
There should be enough meters whereby it's on rural water and city water.
That's our hope. Yeah, that's our hope, is to get as many on as we can. We're looking at that though, because some of them, if we've got to go 2 or 3 blocks where there's no water or no other houses and extend a water line out there, it may become cost prohibitive and water quality prohibitive. We may not be able to keep chlorine in the water by the time we get to use the water. But if they're putting in a new 8-inch or 6-inch main right down the street, connecting 3 houses and skipping one in the middle, I mean, we'd like to hook that one up, and there's some budget to do that.
Yeah, since 2019, we've added 190 tanks to our community, and we've added approximately 50 new meters. Okay, so that's just since that census project has started.
Replacement meters?
So Lou, you're assuming that anybody who has a water tank, whether they're full-time or not, will want a meter also?
I'm not assuming that. What I'm assuming is we have a water district, and if you're in the water district and you're a full-time user, you'll be on the meter. But this is not an assumption, this is part of the project that would be adding approximately 195 more meters. Now, B&G will start working on how we're gonna delegate and disperse those exact people like we have the previous existing list. But I would feel safe to say that if you probably got on a meter and you invested and purchased a meter at this point in time, that your meter will be replaced in this project. Now, at 50 meters already been established, that's gonna leave 45 meters to redelegate. How are we gonna do that? We'll, just like we did in the first part of the project, we'll rely on B&G to make recommendation the most efficient way, and then the council gets to weigh in on, well, who we think should those meters go to.
Yeah, we haven't decided, the council hasn't decided where the extra 196 are going. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just getting ideas from them.
Yes.
But a priority should be full-time residents first.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah, we'd like to get as many added as we can because it helps you with your monthly usage. Yes.
Okay, so if we're on rural water, and the water was brought to our home cross-country, how is that gonna work now? Are all of the rural water lines being replaced?
Yes.
Yeah, we're not gonna tie into the
Specific area, northeast corner.
northeast corner, yeah. We got a map here, I can look a little closer with you.
I can look
But,
later.
yeah, we don't know the condition, the quality, or anything of most anything of the rural water lines. And the city taking that on is now the liability owner of that. If they have a lot of breaks and whatnot, it becomes very costly. It only makes sense with, USDA paying 40% of the project, get all these new lines in and get these customers on. So, yeah, you'll have a new line out along the road.
In front, okay.
Yeah.
So then, the POA/city lines, those are all staying?
Most of them, I think, are gonna be staying.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna try to tie into a lot of them around the lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm Pam Kyle with the
Yep,
POA. So is there any way that we could get a copy of the map
Yeah.
that shows where the lines are all going to be?
Or that's maybe posted on the website?
I mean, is that doable?
Does that map also have meter locations on the properties?
We do have some different maps, and we're working through the meter location. Well, let me back up. Yeah, we have a map, and I think there's maps up here on the walls. We can update them or get them online that would show where these new water mains are going. The construction plans themselves show, like, specifically on your property, like where it is in relation to your driveway. That's like a 500-page document. It's gonna be a little hectic and tedious. I think that we do have a set of plans up here at City Hall, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, we've cut a few trees down to publish those. They do have them here. And then, in the talk about 195 additional meters, we're working through a process to where we'd have a map that shows which lots are, getting their meter replaced or getting a new one. But it's, being able to read it and know where you're at is a little challenging. So, I don't know if that fully answers your question. There's a question right back there.
Yeah, and if you're already on rural water one, there's no charge for the people that are already on rural water one. Only if you haul water would there be a charge for the swap, right?
So,
Because our water tank's in the back, I was just wondering.
right.
So your water meter.
Water meters in the back.
Your water meter, right, yeah. No, the project includes, for people that have a water meter pushing water into their house now, the project includes rehooking you up. What it doesn't include is if you don't have a meter and you have Holden Hall, we'll put a meter at the edge of the road or right of way, but actually cutting into your house and going through that, the city doesn't want to be a part of damaging the house.
Isn't there a caveat to that? They gotta be pre-2019, the PER? Because if they've been installed after 2019, you got a water meter from rural one, you'll have to buy another meter.
I don't know, it's always 15.
But I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want people thinking you get a free meter if you just installed one yesterday. We still haven't worked that out yet.
question right in front.
This is for, how do you know who's full-time and part-time? Because we just switched to full-time.
Well, we have a report that we'll receive from, when the project was originally designed, it was designed through reports that we received from the POA. Who they deliver it to, how often they delivered to them, and who the users were. So we have that information from the previous, and now what we're doing now is we're now gathering new information based on, since 2019, what are all the additionals? Example being, it's easy to say that, well, there was 190 tanks installed since 119. I'm sorry, I don't know specifically where all 190 of them went. You know, so, but that would be our goal, is to look at the outlay, where's the meters gonna, where's the lines gonna run, what's the best application for installation. You know, example being, to add, it may not be in the best interest of the city, the engineers, or the contractor to add another 500 feet of line just to pick up one customer. You see, so there's probably going to be dynamics that go into the project of what's most affordable, because again, we don't get to go back to the bank again. Okay, this is it. So we've got to finish this project with the loans and the grants that are in place. So as we're moving forward, these decisions also get made based on the financial ability of our project. You know, there's several areas of this community that does not now see serviceable lines. There's other, and those very same areas may not be serviceable in the future. You know what, again, this is not gonna go to everyone in our community. It's gonna go as far as the project will allow us to go, dynamically, and what's affordable.
And the city does have ordinances in place establishing the definition of a full-time resident.
Yes.
Yeah, so can we get a map on the website, Lou, that shows us where the water main's gonna go? And the reason I'm asking it, because I know a lot of people, if it's in the, have stuff planted next to the road, and this would give them time to dig up your bulbs or whatever, and get them out of the way and put them back later.
This is,
I know that's
the contractors still have, we have not yet had those project meetings that the contractor is gonna supply us their project goals, okay? And so we can produce what we currently have that gives you a base on where the mains are gonna run and the delivery lines are gonna run. And we can get that out there, and we can get maps out there as soon as we receive them in updates based on, you know, envision, we're not a big city, we're a little city, but envision we have to do the same thing. We're gonna have little water districts, A, B, C, D, or 1 through however, and so how we deliver into that. So, yes, ma'am, we can do that.
I think the overall map, we can get it to you guys one day. Within a couple of weeks, can we have it up there, do you think?
Yeah.
Give or take, so maybe in a couple of weeks we could have that up, or sooner. And then check the website periodically, and we can have updates on there. Right behind you. Yeah.
Lou, sorry, Lou, you're getting requested right now. And it's probably putting the cart before the horse, but is it, as far as a list of contractors to go from the meter to the house, is the city gonna vet the contractors or the people? And I know they have to be approved. Because I'm just worried about like price gouging.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
making sure that, you know, well, like, we're on a fixed income, so I'm already thinking in my head, I need to start planning for this and the cost.
I think the answer to that is, I think, yes, that's a possibility. Not only did we explain that Hettinger is going to be available, and, you know, they're going to have a crew in here to handle specifics. I think that the people on the ground, they're probably going to be the most affordable. In conversation with the council, I believe, agrees that we should probably ask a few more contractors if they would be willing to be on a contractor's list of I don't know how we could guarantee a price, but that, you know what, that they're representing the city somewhat, and that, but no matter how hard we try, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have 100 people are gonna have their 100 own people to do these things, and we're gonna do our best to try to provide you reliable sources, yes.
And I know, like, there's a lot of rock out there, I'm sure they're looking at that, so I know that there's gonna be a price difference, and, you know, I hope we all had black dirt.
How good's your yard? Is it growing really good?
But at 25 foot, if most houses are on their setback, at 25 foot, you know what, you're probably looking at less than 40 foot approach to get to your connection, even if you're on a tank, you know. So the ones that might be more costly is the ones, take me for example, it's on rural water. My water is 135 feet from anywhere they're gonna put a new meter in front of my house. Okay, so do I want that water line running around the outside circumference of my property? And, you know, I may not. So with that might come at a different cost based on, you know what, I'm not gonna use the service, I'm gonna do my own thing. So there'll be a lot of different people wanting to do a lot of different things as we go through all of this, and, you know, so we'll do the best we can to answer your questions and provide good people for you.
Thank you.
You had a question over here?
Yeah, I was wanting to ask about fire hydrant location.
Oh, very well, that's a good one.
Yeah, we do have quite a few fire hydrants in there. They'll be along the right-of-way. Trying to think, there's not really a set standard of where they're at. I mean, we're trying to get good coverage over the town for fire response.
It's gonna be dictated by how much population on one.
Yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of it, density, you know, population density, where lines are at, where connections are at. Yeah, I think it's like 400 feet, for providing water protection. I was trying to think if there was a way we could provide that in that. It's in that 500-page document with the plans, but yeah, there will be fire hydrants installed. I think, what, 150 of them or something like that.
Okay, two questions for someone who is has a tank.
Okay.
The purchase of a meter, do we have a dollar amount that is designated that I'm gonna be paying for a meter?
I think to that, no, I don't think the city set any costs for buying new.
The city has not seen a purchase amount on the meters at this particular point in time, unless Hettinger happens to have that cost based on trying to purchase. We're right now working with the USDA and the EPA with this very conversation based on what we expect for these meters have been outdated by the EPA. So what we're trying to do, instead of losing money or having to spend more money on the new EPA guideline meters, take it from here.
Yeah, there'll be, well, I guess the quick answer is we don't have a set value for that from the council yet, that will be charged for meters.
Okay. And then
Second question.
will you pressurize as you go? Will you pressurize and hook people up? Or will the whole project have to be done before water is sent through?
The goal would be to pressurize in segments. It won't be, we're gonna put 10 feet of line in and pressurize, and 10 feet
Right,
and pressurize.
yeah.
They'll go a block, 2 blocks or so maybe, get a length of line in and backfill so it doesn't blow apart, and then pressurize test and get it ready to go. And then I guess depending on crew availability, if they have the water meter guys right behind them, they would come in and try to connect in right behind them.
Be able to hook up and.
But yes, yeah, but none of that can happen until we have water in the tower, which is October timeframe. That, misspeaking, okay, perfect. Dan?
Yeah, how much was the bid accepted by I suppose it was the lowest bid?
Do you remember the contract? Yeah. It was the low bid, yeah. Yeah, we had 4 bids. Hettinger was low. I want to say it was about 15 million. close to 16, maybe that's 15.9, maybe, somewhere around in there. 15.9 million, yeah, give or take. You might have to add on, actually, look at the contract. Go to the contract, a few more pages, and it'll have that. While he's looking at it up, is there any other, I see a question right, oh, I'm sorry, did you have another question?
Well, this is part of the question.
Oh, okay.
The original project was $17 million.
Yes.
And then we came back and another 4.5 million were added into the project.
Yes.
What percentage of that is due to inflation costs, and which percentage of that to add more meters?
I don't have the exact split for you right now. Yes, obviously inflation influenced that over time and just where the bids came in.
The inflation impact on that was that the nearest bid to this price that was set for the project was about $1.5 million more. So that was the difference in, the time lost from project to paper, project to paper, project to paper, and finally B&G a year and a half ago getting everything out of project to paper and then actually getting it to the KDHE. So with that, COVID, building booms, everything that went on since 2019, this lost time, that impact was about 1.5. Also, what went with that was contractors had more than enough time to evaluate and assess the property they were getting ready to work on. And they discovered that every contractor that's ever worked here before has wore out equipment, and this is a tougher rock than they thought it was. We think some of that impact was where we're working.
Yeah, we had some conversations with council about this. The other thing I would say to this, though, is that part of that additional cost allows us to get these additional meters into the project, which the more users you have, the more people paying into it, the lower your rates can be. And by adding those 195, by doing the extra work and the extra money and the extra grant that USDA provided, we're able to keep the base, anticipated average base monthly rate at or below what we were expecting when we planned this back in 2019.
The monthly rate calculated was 36 meters plus the 195.
Plus 195.
Total amount.
Exactly.
Nation.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, the number you asked about, $15,849,057. And
That's before the 195.
That's before the 100, well, that includes quite a few of the 195, but we're going to add in some additional meters, and we set the budget up with USDA to allow for that. And that also includes contingency, because you start digging in rock and stuff, you don't know what you can find.
And right now, the cost for use is right now a conversation. Rural development will step in and will assist us in setting that rate, okay, because there'll be a financial and a legal obligation to rural development to, wouldn't it be nice to be able to put a water system in here that we could overcharge all of you and we could make a ton of money. But cities are not allowed to do that. So for everybody that's sitting here thinking we're getting rich on this or we're doing something with your money, you know what, guys, I'm telling you, the oversight of this is very heavy. And rural development will help us establish that rate.
Question,
I
right?
don't know if this is so much for you as it is for the city.
Okay.
But for those of us that initiated rural water district service, and we bought into the meter, paid $5,000 for what I did 3 years ago as called a benefit unit for the rural water district. Now that the city has bought out the equipment, the rights, and everything, do we that have done that, do we get a refund for any or some of that money back? Or if we're gonna have our meters taken, that we pay to have the right to, are we gonna be able to keep that meter? Because it's not compatible with your new meters, I'm hearing. It's most likely 3 years old. Are we gonna be able to keep that, offset our costs?
won't be using the old
Yeah,
old
I was gonna
meters.
say, we won't be able to
And-
use the old
and-
meters.
No, he's saying, can you keep the equipment? He don't want somebody taking his
You
equipment.
keeping the equipment? I don't believe it's your equipment. I believe that the second that you paid for it, you obligated it back to the rural water one.
What did I
And,
buy?
pardon?
What did I buy? What did I purchase?
You bought a service.
The
from
right to
Rural
use
Water
it
One.
and a hole in the ground.
Yeah, so.
I don't
Actually, are we gonna reimburse you for that? That is not a
No.
conversation.
He just wanna know if he can keep the meter himself.
First off, I don't, there's a legal conversation that goes with this because you can't take that meter to a scrapyard without them calling, I'm just saying. So there's a legal obligation, there's a legal conversation to be had with Jamie, when the council sits down to have a workshop based on this water project and ordinance. And with that will be the conversation that we, as a city, were to the understanding that we negotiated purchase of all the equipment from Rural Water One, and that would have included those meters, and we purchased that. So we should own that. Now, however, based on obligation, and there could be legal obligation this, you did pay for it. Rural Water One never owned it, but that's not how most water districts work. You know, most water districts doesn't say, no, that's your meter, and if you want to sell your house, they don't want to pay you for it, take it with you. That's never applied in the history of real estate that I know of. So,
Well, usually when I've done this, I just put down 40 acres, usually when you put a meter in, if you buy it like I did out there.
Yes, sir.
It sells with the house. It
yes, sir.
never leaves.
Oh, exactly.
It never.
Exactly.
This one's leaving.
And chances are, I don't know when you, again, the council has to sit down before I sit here and I obligate to you people that, oh yeah, I'm gonna take care of your meter. The council needs to make these decisions. The council will weigh in and make these choices to who should be obligated to get those meters first.
I
So-
emailed my council member
Yeah,
about a month ago. He said he's going to get some answers for this meeting. That's all. I'm good.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Curtis?
Go for it.
Curtis Coffin here. I'm the one with the petting zoo. That was my question. I built and moved in 2023, and I had POA water. So the new meter I purchased.
So you're probably on that list that I've got from Mindy that we're deciphering through, and our goal would be to do a swap in the meter, yes, as part of the project. Because your old meter won't work with their billing system, and they won't be able to read it, basically. So, right there.
Is there a cost to the customer for the new meter?
Well,
Depends.
I'm sorry, a cost for what?
The new meter.
The new meter? Well, I mean, there's a cost in the
As long as you
project.
swap it out, that's it.
Yeah, just swapping in and out, that's part of the project that these guys will be doing.
No charge to the customer.
I mean, unless the council can set some other rate, no, there wouldn't be any charge to you. It's part of the project, and then your monthly fee, or monthly bill that you're paying is gonna help pay off the cost.
So there is.
Well, yeah, it's the $15 million is the cost, to put in all the water lines and everything.
It's just gonna.
But your monthly,
in order to cover the cost of the meter.
Right.
Right. So there is a cost. Why can't we just keep our old meter?
It doesn't work.
That's not,
it won't work.
There's not an adapter out there or anything that you can do to make it where it's readable?
No,
On that part.
no.
in fact, didn't they just made us stop the meters we were looking at and look at different ones because they,
Yeah, we're just working through the process to
Yeah.
get those approved, but, yeah, no, the old meters are not compliant, they're not.
They're not old, they're a year old.
I know, you either buy one that is a automatic meter reader or not. And there's really not a swap in it. But it'd be a brand new water meter, yeah.
So you had said average of $70 to $80.
Monthly average
Monthly
user,
average.
yeah.
What,
So they bought the wrong
how many
system.
gallons? Is that based on so many gallon usage?
It is, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I think our report had looked at the POA usage and rural water usage and kind of averaged out, the highs and the lows to come to an average, so. Yeah, depending on what the city sets for rates, whether it's base
Sure.
plus a couple, or, you know, tiers, or I see a lot of communities set a base rate that includes the initial 500 gallons, or maybe the initial 1,000, and then for every 1,000 or whatever above that, you pay another $10 or whatever it is. They'll decide that, so.
Okay.
Dan?
I have a hot question. What about camping lots? You know, if someone wants a water meter installed, you can't really hook up a hard line to a camper. I don't think you're allowed to do that with hydrants. Be permitted.
That's a good question.
Was there anything in the ordinance that addressed camping lots?
Full-time liver, people who live here full-time.
So if I want water on my or on my lot that I pull my camper out of, if I wanna just put a hydrant there with a meter, I can.
Oh, we can put a meter in.
Yeah.
And
We
from
put a
the
meter in, and then however you connect on the other end of it.
Well, they can have a hydrant.
Exactly, yeah, if you put a hydrant instead of actually running it into your camper, I mean, that would be,
That's exactly how mine is. Mine's 3 years old, that's exactly how mine is. I got a hydrant, hooked to my RV, we're full-time, so we travel.
From everything from, there's the city side of the meter, and then there's the user side of the meter. Everything on the user side of the meter is your responsibility. So however you want to, if you want to run it over to a hydrant, if that hydrant leaks and you,
yeah, whatever, it just has to meet whatever your building code is applying to it.
Aren't there backflow valves required for the meter?
It depends on the type of usage. If it's underground, like underground sprinkler systems, require backflow. Certain usages require backflow prevention. Certain don't.
Just to kind of bounce off what he was saying about retrofitting or cities for a newer meter. Is the issue because he can't communicate with someone trying to read it from the office? Or is driving down, I don't know how Rural Water reads my meter, but they don't physically look at it. They actually either drive by or there's a signal sent, there's a wire running off my meter. And it's only 2 or 3 years old, so why is it that, or how is it not compliant with this new system that we got coming?
USDA set a lot of standards
Yeah, I
for
was
this
gonna say,
project.
I mean, a lot of these things are proprietary. We have to bid out, open bid scenarios for this equipment. There's a ton of manufacturers out there that all have their own systems. And some can communicate between each other, some can't. Like I said, I don't know what Rural Water has as far as their equipment, and whether, my presumption is it probably won't work with what's being installed right now.
So just to be safe.
A bulk
they're
of the
taking
cost,
all of them out.
a bulk of the cost of this project though is not the meters, it's the water system.
We already have water though. We already have a meter.
Well, actually, we
Well, if you
don't
have a POA
have.
meter, the only thing that's getting done is a swap out with the.
But we have to pay for that. You say we
Not
don't.
upfront. Not upfront, it would be in your monthly bill.
you're not just paying for the meter, you're paying for the new water lines. So they actually have water pressure if somebody hooks up to the fire hydrant.
Yeah, you're gonna have better quality water. Right now, the POA's treatment plant, and you can maybe even speak better to it than I
Well,
can.
the treatment
but
plants can't keep up with
It
demand.
can't keep up.
That's the main point of all of this.
You're talking
And Rural
millions and
Water
millions of
One
dollars to try to
is
fix
not
that
gonna
treatment.
supply you. Rural Water One wouldn't fill the pools this year, so there's just things, Rural Water One these were issues long before we even started conversations with the water project. The issues that everyone was having with Rural Water One, cost, operations, and the above. The POA side of it is it's a water plant that is growing old. It's a water plant that only because we are moving into a new project, we being you and me, are not investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a 20-plus-year-old water plant. Okay, so as we do all these things, Some of yous are here for the first time, some of yous are familiar faces. The project doesn't go backwards at this point in time. This had to do with a new water system. Okay, the USDA set the standards for this system. And then after the USDA set the standards, the KDHE went through everything for months and for years to authenticate what we're gonna do is legal and legit. That's where we are today. You would promote that we have water. Sir, not everybody has water. People will have water that didn't have water before. We hope that people have better quality water rather than some of the complaints that we do get about the quality of our water. You know, and with that, most cities do have their own water systems. Okay, a little dynamically different here. We're a recreation community, but there's things that the city can do that the POA cannot, and that is to get the grants and the funds. We don't do this now. We started this in 2016 and 17, the conversation. We don't do this now. When you finally get around to doing it, you're talking $150 a month. I mean, this community is going to continue to grow, and if we don't add everyone as we go, your concern being, well, we're paying for it at $70 or $80. Well, I'm not convinced it is $70 or $80. I'm more convinced that by the time this project is done, with the dynamics of all the people that are going to go on this system and want to be on this system, I'm really hoping that it's somewhat less than that. Okay, so we can only work our hardest to get those things done. That's where we're at today, ladies and gentlemen. And the council has worked and put in many tireless hours in trying to come up with answers and solutions, and it's hard. Here's the biggest, hardest one right now. You're asking us who gets them? Who's gonna get them? Is it gonna be me that paid for a meter? I invested already. Okay, is it gonna me? I've been here for 20-some years, and you know what, I've been waiting for an opportunity to do something better too. Guys, we really hope that this is here to benefit our community, not to hinder everything. You know, so we're gonna have issues. Some of my concerns, I'll bring these questions to play while the contractors are here. This is a problem we had in the low pressure sewer. When are they coming back to fix, when are they gonna come back and fix my driveway? When are they gonna come back and fix the roads? If they shut me off at 10 a.m. in the morning, are you guys gonna bring water on at the end of the day for folks? I mean, there's gonna be a lot of things that happen. City's already discussing it now. How are we gonna field all these phone calls we're gonna be getting once all this starts? So guys, please, suggestions, recommendations, you know what? We invite them all. If there's an easier way, please let us know. We'd love to know the easier way. Any more questions for the water project?
We're also looking into payment plans for the meters, so you don't, gotta do whatever the meter costs. We're looking to see if that's a possibility where you can just pay it with your bill, make payments on it, instead of having to throw out a lump sum of, $500, $1,200, $2,400 for a meter.
The city could finance, we can't finance the construction.
How long ago?
Less than 2 years ago. What am I gonna do with that besides door stop?
I know every time I see one go in, I just cringe, or a new tank on a full-time resident. I just cringe.
You're not gonna get the key.
There's a lot of information about it, because I checked into it at the time. It was like, oh no, you're not gonna be affected by that at all, they'll just swap the lines over.
Who told you? Who told you that? You remember?
Somebody from this office, from your desk.
Oh.
And then someone would say, oh
No,
no,
he-
you're
no,
gonna
he
have to
said
get meters
swapping the
different,
lines.
And then no one, I just think there should be, I mean, obviously,
if you just
everybody
got
got a
the meter
meter
put in a
anyway,
couple
you're
years
gonna
ago.
have water. But I think that,
I feel for you. I mean, I've only been on the council for 4 years, and we're trying to mitigate as much stuff as we can.
Are there any other water questions?
Yeah.
Again, for Lou,
you're making payments.
as you determine who the
plumbers are going to be on this, those are only this, if we can bring it to our house. There isn't a range of prices per foot, does it depend on whether you're going through how much rock, how much soil, how much this, how much that?
I actually think what I hope is that we can find a few contractors that want the dirt, want the business and want the service, and they'll set a cost, they'll set an estimated cost. You know, example being, I don't know, it could be you know what, $125 a foot. I have no idea, but we're hoping to find a few people, and we've talked to a few contractors that could show some interest in this.
So I would like to know a range of price per foot, so when all of us are hooking up at the same time, someone doesn't come in and quote me 3 times as much knowing that I want my
Well,
water now.
I think that right here today, if Hettinger was to consider a price per foot,
I mean, I'm just being honest.
so.
If you have one house and you go 30 feet over and there's another house, one house may be double the other house.
Yeah.
I'm just being straight honest with you.
And it depends on rock, it depends on.
Depends on a lot of different things. Depends on what you got around your house. Depends on how many feet, how bad the rock is.
How to get into the house if you're blowing through the house.
How much you want the yard put back. And there's so many scenarios on all that. So what type of piping you want used. You want copper, you want poly. So there's just, yeah. So.
I had a question. So there's gonna be full-time residents that are not anywhere near a water main, right, or near the lines? And we said we're not going an extra 500 to 1,000 feet to get to that one person, right? But they're required by city ordinance to be on the water. How do we get them water?
Well, only if they're in the district. That's a conversation I was having. The district will get set. You're asking for a map. The district, where the water's gonna go, how far it's gonna get extended, that district is gonna be set. Okay, so now to add the new system to that, again, what's affordable for the project? Is it affordable for the project to, in one district, to add 200 feet of water and put 10 people on it? Or is it more affordable and makes more sense to run 5 foot of line, 500 foot of line, and just put one person on it? You know, there's some tactical numbers to have to go into. You know, at the end of this project, we can't find out that we spent $1.2 million more because, you know what, we just decided to cover the entire community with water, with the water district.
I thought the ordinance just said
The
all
ordinance
full
says
time.
if you're 100 feet from the main water line, that you're required.
Yes,
That's what the ordinance said.
that is correct.
I'll kind of wrap up because it's been about an hour.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if there's some dying questions, I can catch you afterwards or something like that. But just the last few comments I want to make here. There could be some anomalies. I've tried to address what I think probably 98, 99% of what's going to happen out there. There could be some strange ones. There could be somebody, we didn't even know they had a water meter. Nobody knew they had a water meter. So there could be some anomalies there. We're going to try to address that as we go. Last, these guys will be busy working in their crews. They'll be polite, but if you can let them do their work, that would be great. The more they can progress, the better. If there's questions about systems, rate, things like that, that's more for a city hall question. And then also Jim Mayfield with BG, and we may have a couple other guys. They're going to be out there mostly full-time, making sure that what's getting installed is what the spec is getting put into plans and specs. You can always ping him with a question, but he's not going to be able to direct a contractor and tell him, hey, go put the water line on that side, you know, put it over here, put it over there. Those are going to be questions that'll have to come to the city and the engineers to make sure it works with the budget of the system. So, I think that's all I've got. Mindy?
I want to say something on notifications. We do have that text message set up through the website. If you go sign up for general information, the information they give me, I can give you. I can actually just email a certain area of the lake or text. So that's another way that I'm going to try to get information out there, where they're going to be and whatnot.
And it would be nice also, Mindy, if we could get notification from the POA office or to water sewer guys or maintenance so that they can all have a heads up
I
also.
can do that.
I know you got connections. Okay,
All right, I think I'm gonna wrap up the water side unless, Lou, you got anything else?
I got one more question.
Oh, yeah.
You said they're gonna repair the driveways, right, and that kind of thing. You know, a lot of them are in these culverts, you know, where you got like center blocks running across and you got a culvert pipe and then gravel. They're gonna fix all that if they gotta go through them.
Yeah, whatever's damaged for the project will get replaced. We're trying to avoid the culverts as much as we can.
Cause there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of culverts out there.
Yeah, trying to stay out of
Crap load.
those areas because it's just added cost. And then once the line's there, if they have to repair it, they gotta dig it up, and yeah, it's just more ongoing maintenance costs. We're
what
trying
about
to.
concrete driveways?
I'm sorry?
What about concrete driveways?
If they don't pour it, it goes back with concrete.
There you go, Paige.
It won't be all the way to your house, but it'll be,
No, no.
they'll patch the trench
I
that
mean,
they cut
if the
across.
line goes through.
Yeah, yeah.
If you happen to have dirt, or it's not a bunch of rock, there's a pretty good chance we'll pour it. But if it's a lot of rock, we'll probably,
Yeah, they've got their own boring machines, so.
we can do rock pours, we try not to.
Well, I'm not rich enough to have a concrete driveway, but somebody that's.
Well, Luke, how do you want to handle this? We got a little bit to talk, or a couple of slides on the wastewater, or the lagoon side. I don't know if anybody's want to stick around for that, or if you want to both.
Well, I have one thing for the water project. This is a question that was sent in to us, and I just want to make sure we cover questions. Will a permit, you put a new meter in, you're not part of the installation of the project, will a permit be required if you purchase a meter, if you're adding a meter? Okay, the answer to that, you're doing plumbing. That'd be the same as when you put your meter in 2 years ago, you got a permit, had your meter put in. It will require a permit, but there will be no charge. Okay, example being, the city does want to know the work that's being done, and this application isn't what's most important during the project. This is once the project's done. Once the project's completed, it'll be important for everybody to realize that, oh, we gotta come to City Hall to get our meter, and they'll give us a permit at the same time, okay? It just won't come at a cost. Okay, so that'll be part of the project. So just wanted to make sure that got answered in the meeting today.
And to
So-
clarify, if you're building a new home from scratch, there will be a cost for the permits.
For your home. Okay.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Wes. He's kind of been leading the project, the wastewater project for us.
I get more free stuff I can.
If you're not interested in the dirty water.
Perfect, that'll work. All right, so, quick update, I've got a couple slides here on the sewer project. The big update is, well, let me give a quick background real quick, fast for anybody that hasn't had the update or explanation. So, you can kind of see this map here, the picture on the wall thing's a little hard to see, but your existing lagoons are down here, just north of the building here, and the proposed project is for to go from what your current system is now, a discharging lagoon system, to a complete non-discharging facility. And the way we'll do that is 3 new lagoons that meet KDHE minimum design requirements for your 2040 projected population that was outlined in the PER. And then 21 acres of wetlands on the downstream side. So there's no surface discharge runoff from the site. You'll put it in the wetlands. It'll be allowed to evaporate, seep, get out of there over time. But your wastewater will be contained to the site particularly. So right now, at the late 23, we submitted to KDHE. I think I've made 3 or 4 different revisions to the plans, just ironing out different stuff with KDHE on what they want to see for as far as abandonment of the existing facilities, construction of the new, some operational concerns, just to make sure that, you know, as a non-discharging facility, that it's the way that they want it to be. I'm hopeful, knock on wood, that this last revision that's been made here recently is the last that's needed, and I'll bump into the next slide. And then we're looking at being able to advertise for bids this summer, and hopefully start construction here later this year in fall, which would put us hopefully at lagoon testing and acceptance in the spring or summer of '26, and completing construction kind of on the same timeline as the water project in late '26. Like I said, right now we're kind of just dancing to the tune of KDHE's fiddle, making sure that we've got everything that they want in there. But I'm hopeful that we're wrapping that up. This last round of revisions I had was a couple minor questions on the side of KDHE, and I think we got those fairly well ironed out. So hopeful that we're actually going to have some actionable, I guess, forward movement here. As far as project specifics, I'll take a step back real quick. Operationally or layout, the nice thing about this project compared to the water project is all the impact as far as construction is downstream of you. We're not changing anything about how users operate. If you're on the Holden Hall system, low pressure system, that should all remain the same. The location of the lift station, we are putting in a new lift station to be down by the existing lagoons. The POA will be able to dump into a large diameter manhole there, as opposed to dumping directly into the lagoons the way that it's done now. So operationally, should be a bit of an improvement. It should take, lift station that's on the way in town on Linn Valley Drive, road into town, should be able to take that out. So you're not seeing that driving by. And I know that there's probably times where there's odors there. But your LPS system comes in from the southwest here. We'll catch it, and right here on the northwest side of the lagoons is where we've got that lift station, dump station. And you can kind of notice how we can do this. This area here, so we'll talk a little bit about future expansion. The entire 96 acre, I think, property is available to the city. This green area is identified, and there's a map over here on the wall that if you're curious, this is kind of hard to read on the wall with the texture, but this same map is on the wall. This has been set aside as a development area for a kind of commercial district if necessary, however the city wants to move forward with that. And then this purple area, north and west, has been outlined as future expansion, because you guys are growing at a pretty good rate. You get to that projected population of 2,200 and you're still going. We're going to need to expand again, and we do that by just adding square footage to what we've got. So more additional lagoons, additional wetlands to get all that out. Everything's operated off of water balance, size your lagoons based on industry standards, and then based on how much you evaporate and how much rain you get. That's how much surface area we need, so we can get rid of that water without going over the top, and that kind of dictates where we go with design. So as inflow comes in and increases, you obviously increase your size, and that's what that purple area is for. So as far as details on operation, anybody have any specific questions or anything I didn't address? Yeah.
And at your pump station, are you going to have an inline mechanical forestry?
So what I've got, so the dumping station will be a large diameter manhole that they'll be able to dump in from the top. So normally on an inline bar screen, you're capturing horizontal flow. and it's installed at an angle, and you kind of rake everything up. So what I've got instead is the channel will neck down, and the screen will be horizontal, and that screen will be able to flow, drip through, solids collect on top of that screen, and that'll be able to be pulled up and cleaned off, dumped on into a polycart or whatever. But yes, it keeps solid.
So there'll be an actual bar screen that's gonna, remove that from the bars.
It's not, no, it's not a mechanical screen. That wasn't in the original budget. Yeah, it'll be,
Who gets to do that?
I nominate
I'll be
Pam
like
Kiner.
When we have high flow and there's flooding and stuff, that bar screen
That's new job,
becomes
BJ.
no problem.
I like the POA, man.
yeah.
I mean, the public works.
There you
The LPS system won't flow through the screen. Everything's been, at that point, everything's going through individual grinder pumps and sent out. So the expectation is everything's emulsified there. Any large solids that, from that system, obviously, are catching in the individual grinder stations at the house. And even with the Holden Hall system, you've got pumps on the truck that are pushing that flow into the truck, pushing it out. So it's been processed a little bit, but you're still gonna have solids and everything that we don't want to be sending down, putting in a brand new pump station. We want that thing to last. Let's try to keep some solids out.
Solids ended up particularly.
Right, yeah. This pumps are, by KDHE design, they have to be able to pass a 3-inch solid, but still, if you can keep that 3-inch solid out of there and pull it out and put it in a poly cart before it gets there, better operation. So. What's that?
I said if you have a 3-inch solid, you're in trouble.
Yeah. It's a pretty big kidney stone. Yes.
It's the same with the POA. You said the trucks will offload into a manhole.
Yep.
Have you seen the projection out of the back of the trucks before?
I've not here in particular. I mean, it's a deep manhole. It's not, and it's large diameter.
It
It's
just
not.
doesn't, it comes straight out of the back of the truck.
They have, yeah.
Is
They
there
have
gonna
to
be a
drop a
hose
hose.
type
Most of them,
system?
they have. I mean, yeah. The
No,
ones
I
I've
mean,
seen, they've got like a quick connect.
At the manhole.
That's not part of the manhole. I guess the expectation would be the trucks would be equipped to have
They
that.
have to hook their hose back to the truck to offload.
Yeah.
That's how they
I mean,
used to
it's
do it.
like if you had someone
How
come
they
out
do
and
it
pump a
now?
septic tank, they drop a
The
hose
hoses
down.
were right there, they automatically just hooked up.
They-
They didn't have to have an extra hose with them to
Oh.
offload into that.
It should be the same hose that they're using to pull out of the holding
Well,
tank.
where, at our old lift station, there used to be like, some kind of a system that was set up where they just hooked up the hose that was there to the back of the truck and it offloaded right there.
Sure. I mean, that's a fairly easy thing to add. You're talking some pipe and
It
fittings
was
outside of
PVC,
there.
It was like
Yeah.
a 6-inch PVC pipe.
Sure. I mean, that's something I
just
don't
don't-
want
I'm
to change
just
plans because
No,
I've been in
no,
KDHE's ear, but that's something that, we can talk about in design and, or in construction if we need to have that. My intent would be that they pump discharge directly into that manhole because it allows, it's the easiest way to provide that screening
And where
is to
will
do that in that manhole.
Where will that manhole be?
It's,
I mean,
so
in
as you come
location.
in off the drive, we're putting in a roundabout,
Okay.
basically,
Okay.
that they'll pull off the main drive,
Okay.
pull off to the side, that manhole will be right there.
Okay.
They'll be able to back the truck up to it, park beside it, and then pull around so that they don't have to make a 3-point turn or whatever. And then that, off of that same drive will be how city operator or whomever will be able to get down to that lift station to perform any maintenance that's necessary down there, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Dan?
There'll also be, in case of a power outage, there'll be a generator, right?
Yes.
Propane power generator there.
Yes.
For-
Yeah, there will be that's part of KDHE minimum design standards is to have some sort of redundant power there. That's, I consider that part of the lump sum. When I talk about lift station, and I apologize because I make assumptions I shouldn't, but when I talk about lift station, I include all those in my mind. There will be a new electrical riser, chain link fence, gravel area. There's an external manhole vault that will have a totalizer flow meter so that you guys will be able to measure influent to the lagoons and be able to report that. Because it's an important part of a non-discharging facility, you have to understand what's going in. So all that'll be there, but yes, to your point, there'll be a generator. I need to check if it's diesel or liquid propane, but there will be a portable fuel operated generator out there. That flow meter should be able to talk to software at the pump station that can talk back to City Hall, so you should be able to pull up pump run times, flow data, anything associated with that lift station. Should be able to access it here, so you don't have to go out, pull the lid off a manhole and read a meter. But pretty standard. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Are any of these lagoons gonna have aerators on it?
Nope.
Just gonna use the wind?
Yeah. I mean, we designed it, it's up on top of the hill. Aeration it's not completely necessary, I'm gonna say. You can do that to kind of increase your VOD processing. What this is designed on, so these 3 cells are actually designed on KDHE's minimum design standards for a discharging lagoon system. So at the point that we have flow coming out of here into the wetlands, by KDHE standards, it's treated effluent. It's not, I wouldn't go out and drink it, but it's treated wastewater at that point, and that's based on size, sun, and that's based on your per capita BOD loading to the primary treatment cells. If we made them smaller for some reason, or we were restricted by acreage, then aeration would be something we would consider to kind of facilitate that. But in this case, it's not. It wasn't a design factor. And honestly, there's different aeration methods, but when you get in, hopefully 25 years from now to go desludge those and pull 2 feet of sludge off the bottom, you can have some issues with your aerators and getting in there. It's just another piece of mechanical equipment that you have to maintain.
Now, are these lagoons, are they gonna be used in conjunction with the old ones?
So this one, your existing cell 3 it meets no KDHE standard that I'm aware of. Right. So our plan there, and the only way to flow to that from your existing is another lift station that's there. So the plan is to take cell 3 out. We're going to make it so that it's not just a pit. They'll desludge it, clean it up, but we're going to abandon that. Cells 1 and 2 actually, we're going to have deep flow piping from your top wetland cell that, we've got a period where there's significant inflow spike for some reason. A lot of systems, I'd say you have really heavy rain, but with your LPS system, shouldn't have too much I&I, but if you have a heavy month where it feels like it rains 34 out of 31 days, and you got 20 inches of rain out there and it just spikes everything, we'll be able to flow back into these, use them as a peak flow storage almost.
Detention.
Yep, and then you'll have a discharge that'll go to that lift station that you'll be able to throttle open a valve and send that back up to the cell 1 and send it back through that process. And that's just really gonna give you a little bit of flexibility on times where you've got significant flow, help you maintain that non-discharging status. In the event that you just can't keep up with it, there's an act of God storm or whatever, what have you, there is an emergency bypass that you discharge to this point and it flow out. It's gonna have a sign, it's gonna be blind flanged that this is only to be used in the event of an emergency. You have to contact KDHE because it's technically bypassing your treatment system. But I'm not expecting that that's gonna be something that you'll ever have to open.
So all of us that are on holding tanks, are you gonna run sewer lines?
That is a question for council. I think the idea would be over time, you'd like everybody to be on the LPS. not as part of this project. Nothing in your yard or at your property is going to be affected by this project in particular.
So that's why there's still gonna be the trucks.
Yeah.
This phase one should accommodate this city's growth. Of course, nobody can predict the growth here, but for 20 years. Okay, the second part of the acreage up here was established for the phase two of this project that should come between 20 and 40 years. So the sustainability for this sewer project at a maximum was 40 years.
But also at that point in time, when we got to that 40-year mark, I think we estimated we would be out of sellable land anyway, so.
Sure.
We'll find someone.
Now, what happens is the land that's sold just resells and we build more. So I don't think anybody could have ever understood the dynamics of the growth of this community over the last 6 years. Just absolutely astronomical. So other cities in the state of Kansas would beg for these opportunities. So, of growth. What comes with growth has to be these guys. So, anything else, Wes?
I don't have anything unless there's additional questions.
Yes, sir.
Does the city see itself maybe getting in the hauling business for the sewer eventually, or, I don't know?
I don't know. I can't answer that on behalf of the council. I would tell you that we couldn't do it for the price that the POA does it.
Well, that's,
You want to pay $200 for 1,000 gallons?
Yeah. And dynamically, we would be the only city, as of now, we are the only city in the state of Kansas that obtains a license that does our own holding all. You know, other cities don't take this challenge on. Well, they're not recreational communities. So.
Anything else? I've left some cards here before, but if you think of anything or have additional questions, feel free to button. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Unless anybody has any other questions that has to do with the Linn Valley Water Project or the Linn Valley Sewer Lagoon expansion, we do our best to try to answer those questions. The other side of this is that, and this goes with every city, decisions that get made are the community doesn't always show favor to. You know, this project has been ongoing for quite some time. You know, there were many people that were involved in this project through the years. And where we're at now is, guys, we're actually laying line, thank you, Hettinger. We're actually, our projects are now off of tables and in action, thank you, B&G. And now a lot of the hard work is going to get put back on the city and the council to decide how we obligate this to you. So feel free to reach out to your council people, myself, anyone that you'd like to in the city. If you have additional questions or if there's anything specific we can help you answer as we get closer to your yard. So, any questions? Sir?
Question for the excavating crew.
Yeah.
Do you know if meter placement is like a set in stone thing, or you're working with each house for what's best for the house? Or is it set on the map where the?
Well, we've got it kind of laid out in the plans where it makes sense as far as along the lines and trying to avoid stuff in your yard. I mean, yeah, a little common sense will prevail too. If they need to move it over a couple of feet so they don't tear up your driveway with the equipment, I'm sure that, that's fine. Now to move it from one side of the property to the back side of the property, that's probably not going to happen. But
We're going to discover some easement releases. We're going to be running into areas where all of a sudden we're going to realize that, oh, it doesn't look anything like it did on the map. Easement releases from one property to the next. Self-owners do that, or maybe an easement release that was received years ago from the POA. But we're going to run into these things, guys, and as we do, with a little bit of luck, our goal isn't to have to destroy your entire yard just to get your meter in.
I think the ordinance states that the meter has to be in front yard.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, within 25 feet of the easement. Yes, sir.
And I think it was like 18 months ago, approximately, they came out and did a bunch of surveying, located like if you have a Holden Hall tank, sewer lines, things, any kind of lines and everything that was already there. And that was kind of part of their planning on where they would be putting meters for each home.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to be so far away from the the sewer lines that go to your tank and all that stuff.
Yeah, our crew's got a pretty good picture of what was out there on the ground, so tried to make it as easy for them to get installed as possible.
Okay. Sir?
So it's new construction, if you're gonna put a Holden Hall tank or, something to that effect before they get to your property, they would have to be resurveyed?
A question that did come in was, would new homes be allowed to put a temporary tank in during the construction process, and maybe even an above-ground tank?
Okay.
Well, I don't know that that process would be any different for you than for campers that may use those 250-gallon totes. You just might find it difficult to operate a full household, you know, on a poly tank. You know, so, but, you know, that obligation would be entirely up to you. And again, it can't impact the, and so.
And you're a full-time resident, right? Is what they're saying. If you put in a tank now, you're gonna have to replace it, or you would not replace it.
I'm not a full-time resident. Me, I'm not a full-time resident, which is my own personal business is going on, because that's why I'm here, is all these things, because people are saying that I am a permanent resident, and I am not. I don't know who I need to talk to about that, get my name cleared.
I think it also says if you're a full-time resident, you have to have at least a 1,500-gallon.
Yeah, holding tank.
Mhm. That's always been the case.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Council? Mike, you have anything?
No, sir.
Tony? No, sir. Supermark? Anybody else? I do not have anything. With that, I would like to adjourn the town hall meeting. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And if we didn't answer your questions, continue to ask.